We need to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. I haven't really talked about them all year, but there's obviously some problems here, and I feel like some of the media are directing these problems in the wrong places or at the wrong players comparatively to where some of the blame and the problems and concerns should actually be directed. So let's talk about that today. We're going to start with talking about the big three, and then continue to talk about some of their bench pieces and the team in general. And so let's start with Russell Westbrook, who of course has been the face of all of the backlash, all of the disgruntled media and fans. It all goes on Russ, because Russ is always that guy that just gets hated on, whether he deserves to be or not. And sure, Russell Westbrook was very poor to start the year. It didn't look like he was going to fit in well, but of course he wasn't going to fit in well with two ball-dominant stars immediately. Anyone who thought that was just not anywhere near close to a basketball mind. Like, you can't expect three stars to just gel in 5 games. It's just not how it works. It's just not, especially when you have a guy who's always been ball dominant in LeBron, someone who was relatively ball dominant in AD, and someone who was extremely ball dominant in Russell Westbrook. It just wasn't going to happen. It was going to take time. You couldn't judge that off of 5 games. And lo and behold, who would have ever guessed it? Russell Westbrook has improved his play, has looked like he's fit in better, and has played a lot better over his last 5 to 8 games. That's just facts. Did he start poorly? Yeah. Yeah, he definitely did. But he's been a lot better since then, and has been a quality piece, and probably one of the pieces, and one of the reasons why this Lakers team has been able to be as good as they have, especially while LeBron James was out. And a big reason for that is because AD has not been good at all. I don't care what the counting stats say. Yes, he's averaging 24 and 10. He hasn't been good. He just hasn't. He continues to settle way too much. And he's settling on jump shots that he's not hitting. He is shooting at historic low levels. I will be editing a stat here onto the screen from StatMuse from a couple of days ago. And he is historically, for the volume of shots he is taking from mid-range and from 3, historically one of the worst efficiencies this far into the season. And I don't want to hear, oh, it's early on in the season, he'll improve. No, we're 21 games in now. This is a quarter of the way into the season. And AD continues to settle for shots, is not aggressive enough, is not getting into the paint enough, and just continues to settle for jump shots. Now, LeBron's doing the same thing. But LeBron is also in what year? 17, 18 now? He needs to preserve his body. And sure, AD also has injury struggles as well. But AD is a big. And if AD is hitting his perimeter shots, I have no problem with him conserving his body and just shooting perimeter shots throughout the regular season. But he's not. He's doing it at one of the worst efficiencies in the league. And so he needs to get in the paint. He needs to get offensive rebounds. And he needs to post up and get buckets down low. He's good at that. Especially as a freaking power forward, where he plays half the time because he doesn't want to play at center. And for some reason, DeAndre Jordan still continues to start, which is beyond me. And so AD needs to use that size, use that length, and actually get decent looks for himself instead of just putting up shots from distance and missing them all. Point blank, period. So AD needs to get some criticism here too, because this is far from all on Russ. And AD has been playing way too passive and playing poorly while shooting passively this season. LeBron, I don't really have any serious complaints. Sure, you can say you would like him to be attacking the rim more and be more aggressive and shoot less jump shots. But that kind of is just what you're going to get with LeBron. And he's been relatively efficient. He's shooting about 34% from deep on 8.5 attempts per game. And that's fine. That's actually not a terrible efficiency for LeBron throughout his career, especially on that high of attempts. And he just kind of has to do that if you want him around for the playoffs at this point in time in his career. So I can live with that. But AD, I cannot live with that efficiency from deep. AD is shooting 20.5% from deep this year, shooting 2.1 attempts per game. That's just not good enough at all. It's really not. He needs to be either hitting those way better, or he needs to stop shooting 2 a game and actually get in the paint. Point blank, period. Outside of the big 3, let's talk about the positives. There are some. They do exist. Carmelo Anthony specifically has been the biggest positive for this group. He's been probably the most important player on a consistent basis for this group. Carmelo, 14.5 points per game. Solid rebounding, good floor spacing. He's shot really well as a three-point shooter this year. I think close to, if not the best clip of his career. And Carmelo always struggled relative to his other shooting as a three-point scorer earlier in his career with the Knicks. He was a mid-range guy, that was his thing, and he could hit some threes, but it wasn't as efficient as you would like. But he's shooting near 43% for deep this year, making nearly 3 a game. He's been extremely good for them, creating his own shot, catch and shoot. Very valuable for them off of the bench and often in their closing lineups. Talen Horton-Tucker has shown some very positive and very negative flashes on the offensive end. He has been back from injury. He did start a few games, and then since he's now been moved back to the bench, I think it's a much better spot for him. I don't think him and LeBron during the court a ton fit very well. I don't love Talen Horton-Tucker's catch and shoot three-point shooting. He's shooting below 30% again this year. I advocated over the summer that him in the starting lineup just wasn't a good call because of that fit, and that kind of just seems to be the way it is, unfortunately. As much as you would love to have those guys playing together a little bit more, at least just in the starting lineup together, hasn't really worked out so far. Malik Monk has also been a very important part of their bench. He's averaging close to 10 a game, very good three-point shooting. Hasn't been quite as efficient as you would like so far this year, but he's also had some scenarios where he has to create a lot of his own shot. Does drop that efficiency a bit, and ultimately his ability to create his own shot has been important for them off of the bench. Outside of that, as mentioned, I don't understand at all how DeAndre Jordan is still starting for this team. I understand AD doesn't want to play the 5, but honestly, like, DeAndre Jordan's just so bad. Like, he's playing 14 minutes a game and he's starting. Like, he's just not good. He's literally coming in, first quarter, starts, doesn't play again in the first half. Started the second half, starts, doesn't play again. Then you see Dwight play the 5, and then AD plays the 5 the rest of the game. That's just it. Or in some scenarios where AD was out, Carmelo and LeBron were playing the 4 and 5. So yeah, please, DeAndre Jordan, do not start on the end of the year, or at least in the playoffs at the 5. Please, Lakers, do not do that. Generally speaking, though, for the whole of the team, it's been the defense. The defense has been a concern. They are currently sitting nowhere near where you would have expected Frank Vogel-led team with AD and LeBron and Russ to be at in defensive rating. They're sitting in 18th. And this was one of, if not the best defensive team in the league last year. But of course, they pretty much changed the whole roster outside of LeBron, AD, and Talen Horton-Tucker. So they were going to have to adjust to a lot of players to a new defensive system with new players. But this is also an old team that has reduced mobility in a lot of these players, that can't contain dribble penetration as well as you would like. Don't have a great center half the time with DeAndre Jordan on the court. And it's resulted in a pretty poor defense. And this is a team that you would have expected to be a much better defense, or at least hope to have been a much better defense. Even Avery Bradley's now in the starting lineup. He's been a positive for them on defense. But like Kent Bazemore started the year and was a heavy part of the rotation. He was a not great defender and terrible three-point shooter. Guys like Austin Reeves have given you some minutes, but he's not some elite defender either. Wayne Ellington at this point in time in his career is not really as much of a 3-and-D guy anymore as he is more just of a 3-and-OK-D. Malik Monk, not a great defender. Carmelo Anthony, fine defender, not great. Like this, the Lakers have some things to figure out, no doubt about it. Whether Frank Vogel is here long term or not, I don't know. I know there's rumblings. Personally, I don't think the head coaching is going to change too much here, although you could make the argument that he has made some questionable decisions in games so far this season. But ultimately, Russ needs to continue to play well as he has over this last recent stretch. AD needs to figure out how to be aggressive and get in the paint and not just settle for jump shots that he doesn't hit. LeBron needs to stay healthy, and they need to figure out how to play better defense. So that's my thoughts on the Lakers so far this season. Be sure to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. I don't think this team is destined from being good this year, but I don't necessarily consider them a top contender right now. That's for sure. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.